top 30 going in there to have a chance to win the FedEx Cup. So, why would I care about the first two? I won't pretend to be up here and defend Bryson. I'm not particularly fond of him.
One question asked in a press conference after the final round of the 2026 Open Championship changed the entire conversation around Rory McIlroy. He was asked whether it was fair to say Professional Golfers Association Tour events no longer excited him the way they once did. He agreed. What followed was a short answer about the FedEx Cup, the top 30, and priorities. And within hours, it had become the most argued about statement in professional golf. To understand why that answer landed the way it did, you have to go back 2 days earlier to Friday afternoon at Royal Birkdale and to the fifth hole of the second round. Bryson DeChambeau hit his tee shot into thick, tall fescue grass. Before playing his second shot, cameras captured him taking several exaggerated steps through the rough, seemingly flattening the grass near his golf ball. Rules officials reviewed the video footage and determined that he had stepped on and flattened the tall grass behind his ball, improving the conditions for his swing. Officials from the Royal and Ancient confirmed the action broke Rule 8. 1. Which concerns improvement of the area of the intended golf swing. Here is the detail that matters most, and the detail that most of the online arguments skipped entirely. This regulation applies even when the action is unintentional. That single point separates a rules infraction from cheating, and it is the reason the word cheat was never the correct word for what happened at the fifth hole. The rule does not ask what a player meant to do, it asks what the player did. The consequences were immediate and expensive. The penalty turned Bryson DeChambeau's bogey into a triple bogey. His round changed from a 66 to a 68. He fell from outright second place to a tie for fifth. What happened next is what turned a scoring correction into a story that consumed the weekend. Bryson DeChambeau returned to the fifth hole to argue with officials over the incident and allegedly threatened to withdraw from the tournament. He failed to confirm his participation in Saturday's round until almost midnight, delaying the publication of tee times for every other player in the field. On Saturday, he was spotted in a heated exchange with Royal and Ancient Chief Executive Officer Mark Darbin as he tried to get his second-round scorecard back. That request was denied. So the sequence was this: a Friday afternoon incident, a video review, a two-shot penalty, a dispute that ran to nearly midnight, and a tee sheet that the entire championship field had to wait for. Rory McIlroy was not in the media center when this unfolded. He was watching it on television in the players' lounge alongside fellow golfers. That detail is what gave his reaction its weight. This was not a commentator reacting from a broadcast booth. This was the locker room watching in real time and then being asked about it on the record. His response came in 3 parts, and each part did something different. First, he said the penalty was obviously correct. He described the moment the players in the lounge saw it happen. As soon as he made the step into the ball, we all sort of looked at each other and we were like, that didn't seem right. Second, he questioned the behavior itself. I won't pretend to be up here and defend Bryson. I'm not particularly fond of him. I think a lot of it's performative. I think a lot of it's for attention. Third, and most significantly for what came later, he framed the delay as a cost paid by everybody else. To hold the tournament hostage like that, and to have all of us, players, volunteers, everyone waiting on him to depart. I didn't feel like it was a good look. The line that caused the most damage was 7 words long. I'm not particularly fond of him. That is not a critique of a golf swing, a course strategy, or a rules interpretation. That is a personal statement about another competitor made on the record at a major championship. Professional golfers almost never say that publicly. It was the moment the story stopped being about a rules infraction and started being about 2 men. The contrast with how other players handled the exact same question is instructive. Shane Lowry acknowledged that Bryson DeChambeau had violated the rules and called the situation unfortunate but straightforward, emphasizing that the rules must be respected regardless of circumstances. Marco Pengi noted that dry course conditions made such infractions more likely and stressed the need for caution, saying he avoided contact with the grass in similar situations and leaving the final judgment to others. Both men stayed on the rules. Only Rory McIlroy went at the person. Bryson DeChambeau refused to address the incident or the comments publicly. When asked about the remarks made by the 2026 Masters champion, he shook his head and said, "I have not heard anything." It is worth noting that this silence was not specific to this dispute. He has spent 8 major championship rounds without speaking to the media. The pattern predates the argument. He then shot a third round 69, leaving him 4 shots adrift of leader Sam Burns going into the final round. Then came Sunday and the turn. Rory McIlroy finished the 2026 Open Championship tied for 40th place, closing with a 1/71. In the press conference that followed, he was asked whether it was fair to say that professional golfers' association tour events no longer generated the same excitement for him. His answer was 2 words, "Yes, that's fair." He then explained the thinking behind it, and the explanation is where the controversy actually lives. I think it just sort of ebbs and flows. There's been years where I've given it maybe more of my attention and years that I haven't. On his priorities, he said, "I guess I'm just at a stage that I have other things that I prioritize." On the organization itself, he pointed to instability. The PGA Tour is in a lot of flux at the minute with a lot of their schedule and structure and everything like that. And then came the sentence that produced the backlash. Explaining how the revamped FedEx Cup format has changed his approach to the playoffs, he said, "I just need to be in the top 30 going in there to have a chance to win a FedEx Cup. So why would I care about the first 2? I sort of came to that decision last year, and I'm just sort of doing the same thing." Read carefully, that is not an impulsive statement. He is describing a decision he made a full year earlier and is simply repeating. There was also a part of the same press conference that the outrage cycle largely ignored. Rory McIlroy had completed the career Grand Slam with his victory at the Masters, and by his own account, he had not stopped to mark it. "I haven't really taken the time to enjoy that or celebrate that," he said, referring to that win. He then explained what he planned to do with the weeks ahead. "Poppy's got another 4 weeks off school until she goes back, so I'm just going to enjoy the summer holidays with her and Erica. That's what I'm looking forward to the most." So within roughly 24 hours, the same player criticized another competitor for costing players, volunteers, and staff their time, and then explained why 2 professional golfers' association tour playoff events do not warrant his attention. That is the whiplash. That is the entire case against him, compressed into 1 weekend. And the case against him deserves to be presented at its strongest, not its weakest. During the height of the conflict between the Professional Golfers Association Tour and LIV Golf, Rory McIlroy was the sport's most visible institutionalist. He frequently advocated for the tour's biggest stars to compete together more often, for the fans and for the good of the game. He served on the policy board. He absorbed the public pressure that came with that position, while other players stayed quiet. Critics argue that he has now reversed that position. One fan wrote, "I'm a Rory fan, but this is still a shy attitude." It wasn't long ago he was talking about the tour needing to get the top players playing more events together for the fans and the good of the game. Another put it more bluntly, "So the PGA is only righteous when it fits his needs. The so-called good of the game and fans are irrelevant." A third line of criticism questioned his motivation entirely. Rory isn't hungry anymore. He has done what he wanted to do and now is just going to ride out the rest of his career. The sharpest version came from social media, and it connected the 2 stories directly. Niall McGrath wrote that Rory McIlroy accused Bryson DeChambeau of holding the tournament hostage on Saturday, yet a day later openly questioned why he should care about the Professional Golfers Association Tour's first 2 playoff events. That is the strongest form of the argument. He spent years asking other players to sacrifice individually for a collective benefit, built enormous credibility on that position, and is now unilaterally exempting himself from parts of the schedule he finds inconvenient. The comments about Bryson DeChambeau make it sharper, because the reason he gave for the criticism was everyone else's time. He invoked the collective on Saturday and claimed individual latitude on Sunday. Now the other side, which almost no coverage gave equal weight. Golf Channel analyst Paul McGinley argued that this is a career stage change rather than a character change. His legacy is secure, his family is getting older, and he's going to have different priorities in his life rather than just going out and playing golf tournaments. McGinley also noted that maintaining the same level of motivation every week becomes increasingly difficult after accomplishing nearly everything the sport has to offer. That is a real professional problem, not an excuse. Analyst Gary Williams offered a different explanation, and it points at institutional history rather than personal fatigue. Williams believes lingering frustration from the Professional Golfers Association Tour's 2023 framework agreement with Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and the eventual departure of Rory McIlroy from the policy board may still influence how he views the tour today. In other words, the players who publicly defended the organization were blindsided by an agreement they did not see coming. Williams framed it in terms of temperament. Athletes are great for a lot of reasons, and one of the reasons why they're great is that they're damn stubborn. Stubbornness of that kind does not simply evaporate. There is a third argument, and it is the strongest one available because it does not depend on defending anyone's personality. Rory McIlroy did not break the FedEx Cup. He described it. If a player can skip 2 of 3 playoff events and still arrive with a legitimate chance at the season-long title, that is a design outcome, not a character flaw. He is being criticized for stating out loud what the mathematics of the format already permits. The rule did not change because he said it. The rule is why he said it. That same format has drawn criticism from the opposite direction. Golf fans have openly discussed the winner-take-all tour championship structure and the real possibility that a player with an unremarkable season could get hot for a single week and take the tour's supposed ultimate prize, with names like Sungjae Im, Nick Taylor, Patrick Cantlay, and Corey Connors raised as examples of steady but unspectacular seasons producing a top 30 finish. One fan argued that if that happened, it would fully expose how much of a joke the FedEx Cup has been since the start. The complaint from that direction and the complaint about Rory McIlroy are the same complaint wearing different clothes. The format does not reward what it claims to reward. There is also direct evidence against the idea that he has disengaged from the sport. Days after the 2026 Open Championship, the DP World Tour, the Asian Tour, and the Professional Golfers Association Tour announced a partnership running through at least 2029, creating new commercial and playing opportunities while establishing pathways for leading Asian Tour members to earn DP World Tour status. Rory McIlroy shared the announcement publicly and backed it. Positive news. And great to see the respective tours working together for the good of international golf. That is not the behavior of a player checking out of professional golf. It is the behavior of a player who has stopped caring about one specific competitive format while continuing to support the structure of the global game. So what is this actually? The most accurate reading is that the two stories are not a contradiction of principle. They are a contradiction of proportion. He held Bryson DeChambeau to a standard of collective obligation on Saturday and claimed individual latitude for himself on Sunday, and that inconsistency is a fair criticism. But there is a meaningful difference between a rules dispute that delayed an entire championship field until midnight and a 37-year-old 6-time major champion saying he wants a summer with his wife and daughter after completing the career Grand Slam. Both can be criticized. They are not the same size. The more useful question is the one aimed at the organization rather than the player. Is the problem that Rory McIlroy does not care, or that the schedule gave him permission not to care? Because from here, every scheduling decision he makes becomes evidence. Which events he adds, which he skips, and when he returns will all be read as proof of whichever case a viewer already believes. Meanwhile, one of the sport's most recognizable figures has publicly described the regular season as optional, and the Professional Golfers Association Tour has no available counter-argument that is not a change to the rules themselves. Which brings it to a genuine fork rather than a rhetorical one, hypocrite or honest? Here is a more specific version of that question. If the Professional Golfers Association Tour redesigned the playoffs tomorrow so that the first 2 events genuinely mattered, does Rory McIlroy play them? The answer here is yes. Explain why that is wrong.